going on, guys? It's Elias. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. As you can see, we are setting a fast lap time in a new track, in a new car. Well, it's not a new car by any means, but I have not taken the Prelude out on the track for about, I would say, 10 years. Maybe 8 to 10 years, so it's been quite a while. So I'm going to go step by step on how I go about getting used to the car and then setting these faster lap times. Now, these are not blazing fast lap times by any means, but I was 4th out of 8 in my class, in my Tuner 5 class, mostly against Miatas. So I would say not too bad, especially for my first time ever at this track with a car I'm not familiar with. Now, when I say I'm not familiar with this car, I have owned it for almost 13 years now, but right before this race, I actually changed the suspension significantly, and I made sure that I fit huge tires for this car, 245 4017 tires from Hankook, the Hankook RS4s, on Konig wheels. Love the Konig wheels, Konig Ampliforms actually, with DTC60 brake pads. This is the first time I'm running the car with all of those modifications, so these are all different things I got to get used to. One of the main things I would say when you first go out in a car that you've made modifications to is be on the lookout for any possible issues. If there's any clanging that you're not used to, if the brakes are not sounding right, if the engine doesn't sound right, be sure to be on the lookout, because I definitely for sure was on the lookout for those issues. This car is very old, has 240,000 miles. I wanted to make sure it made it through the weekend. If I don't make it through the weekend, then I really can't compete. So part of the competition is making sure you don't blow your car up on the first try. So definitely something to keep an eye out. Now, learning a new track. One of the first things I like to do is to categorize which turns are kind of blind turns and which turns are not blind turns. Most turns on tracks can be categorized by one or the other. Some of the turns that are blind are not too difficult, and some of the turns that are not blind can be very difficult. But the biggest difference is that on a non-blind turn, you can see ahead and you can kind of plan out your line, and you can push fairly easily through that turn. You can basically plot your course through the turn before you take that turn, and you can gain a lot of time through there. Now, blind turns are going to be a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to trust yourself and the car to pull you through the faster and faster you go. The way you reduce the time is definitely by going faster and faster and pushing it harder and harder than you think you could even possibly do. Now, you don't want to go too crazy. That's how people get into accidents. That's how people go off track and hit walls and things like that. But you do want to push every single time you go through the track. You want to push harder and harder, get those wheels singing, as I call it, and push your car to the limit. Now, of course, this is probably this is the second session, so I'm still not familiar with the track. I'm just starting to get comfortable with the car, so I really don't know what speeds I can carry through these turns. But I am still trying to attack them as hard as I possibly can, without, of course, going overboard. You know, I'm not going to go sideways on the first try. I will eventually, but not quite yet. Now, this turn coming up is one of the trickier turns because you have to set yourself up right so you can carry a ton of speed. You can straighten your wheel through here a little bit. Right there, you brake, and then you can turn in there. Now, I have not found that trick yet, but eventually I will find it. The way I learned it is just by pushing the car harder and harder each time around. On the straightaways, I basically take stock of how the car is doing. Is it running healthy? Are the brakes an issue? Is the suspension doing the right thing? And then I set up for the next corner and I go into it. Now, this is a time attack style, so what I like to do is I like to go fast, then I like to go slow, and then I like to go fast, and then I like to go slow. So one fast lap, one slow lap, one fast lap, one slow lap. That way I don't overheat the tires, I don't overheat the brakes, I'm not killing the car completely.
I can get more speed through there next time.
And I can see which corners I can get more speed through. I can see which corners I need to kind of slow down, and I'm kind of overdriving a little bit. And these are the kind of things you kind of keep in mind as you go. Something else to keep in mind, especially on these momentum cars or these older cars, it's not always apparent which gear you should be in for each turn. So for example, on this very tight right-hand turn here, I can either go into second or leave it in third. I wasn't sure which one was faster quite yet, and I know I'm out of VTEC at this point. But I don't have to shift right here, whereas if I was in second, I would have had to shift there no matter what. With it in third, I could just leave it in third.
There we go, a little more speed.
And I can carry a little bit more speed, and I can actually try to get a little bit faster. Now, the long gearing in the Prelude really is a problem. It kind of sucks actually, but it's part of the fun. You're trying to find out which gear is best. So I leave it in second gear here, and I find that I stay in VTEC much longer. And it feels a little bit better, but I don't know, it just feels like I'm also kind of beating the car up, maybe unnecessarily. And that's also part of it. Like I said, you want to make sure your car makes it through the entire weekend, and if you're driving an older car like this, you're going to want to keep an eye on all kinds of mechanical issues that could arise because you're beating on the car. So one of the things you also have to contend with on a time attack or time trial is traffic. It's either you being traffic, if you're the slower traffic, or somebody else kind of holding you up. Now, if you hit traffic on your lap, you're basically going to know that you're not going to have a fast lap. So I would not push your car too hard during that lap, and actually, I recommend letting people pass. That's my buddy Nos. His YouTube channel is Nos2K. He's got a pretty sweet setup in that thing. And since I was slowed down anyway by the Miata, I'm just going to take it nice and easy here. Now, in terms of lap times, I started out on this track, my first time around it was about 1:40, which is quite terrible. And actually, the lap we're about to watch right now, this was the fastest lap of this day, 1:32, which is not too bad actually. I was pretty impressed with this one, so let's watch. There we have it, 1:32. I was pretty happy with that. Now the car was starting to exhibit some things I was not used to. Let's take a look at what the car was doing that was really starting to worry me. So on sweeping left-hand turns, I was losing a ton of power. It was pulling timing. I don't know what the heck it was doing. Take a look here. So as you heard there, it was sputtering, it was just not feeling right, and because of that I just decided I'm not going to push it, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to pit in, and I'm going to try to figure out what was happening. I thought it could have been fuel starvation. Let me know what you think it is in the comments. So, after pitting, I checked the oil level. It was between the high and the low mark. I thought that was perfect. And I filled up the gas tank because I thought that might have been it. It might have been a fuel starvation thing. That's what it felt like to me anyway. And yeah, let's take a look and see if the problem occurs again. This is one of the flying laps that I had. Pretty sure I was going to set a decent time here. I was pushing it pretty hard, pretty confident here. Let's see what the car does on the sweeping left again.
know what the hell's going on there.
So as you can hear it in my voice, I was pretty frustrated at this point. I filled up the gas, I thought the oil was good. What the hell is going on? What do you think the problem could be? At this point I'm thinking, you know, it's pulling VTEC because VTEC is above 6,000 RPMs and that turns 6,000 RPM turn on second gear. It just kind of pulls VTEC and it doesn't let you go above that RPM. Now, that could be fuel, that could be a number of different things. Again, let me know in the comments. I will let you guys know what it is in a short little moment. But let's see if anybody in the comments figured it out before I said it.
Thank you.
So as I'm racing, I'm also trying to troubleshoot the issue. I'm thinking it's a fuel starvation problem, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put it in third and see if a fuel starvation problem still happens. So in third, I don't go into VTEC, and as you can see right there, fuel starvation does not happen. Alright, so for those of you that guessed it was an oil problem, you guessed correctly. The H22A will not go into VTEC unless there's enough oil pressure, and when I'm turning left there, unless the oil sump is overfilled, it will slosh around and it won't get enough oil. So what I had to do to fix the problem was overfill the oil sump, and that fixed the issue. So, you know, trial and error, I had to learn the hard way. It's a hard-won battle there, but hey, you gotta learn some way, right? And now we're gonna be able to set some faster lap times. Let's take a look at how I do in the track sprint session. Now, if you don't know what a track sprint is, I covered that in a different video. It's a full-length video on just what track sprints are, and I actually kind of like the track sprint. So let's take a look at this little track sprint. Alright, that track sprint was really good. I was, again, fairly competitive. Still, you know, I went from third to fourth in my group, and I pretty much stayed in fourth throughout the entire weekend, which, you know, I'm okay with. I did good enough. Pretty happy with the setup, pretty happy with the car. First time out with the car, really can't complain. So this next lap that I'm about to do is actually the fastest time of the weekend for me, a 1 minute 30 seconds. I was very, very happy with that, so let's watch. And there we have it, boys and girls. That was my fastest lap of the weekend. I was satisfied with it. I was happy with the car setup. It's not gonna beat any lap records anytime soon. I probably need some forced induction for that, or a different car, let's say. The way it is, the Prelude is super fun. I was super happy I took it out. I was very happy with my times, and I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you have any questions, put it down below in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.